Many people claim the Quran makes a historical error about the crucifixion of Jesus. Today, I want to show you why that claim completely fails. And more importantly, why what Islam says about the crucifixion is actually a strong proof for the truth of Islam. This is my first video on this channel in quite a while, inshallah, and I'll be regularly covering my usual topics. Let's begin. The only error claim that can realistically be made against the Quran on crucifixion is a historical one. There is no scientific or logical error being alleged here. But this already assumes something very important, that Christianity itself is historically solid. In reality, Christianity has serious historical problems, especially regarding the life of Jesus. The claim usually goes like this. There are many historical sources that testify Jesus was crucified, and there is a scholarly consensus on this point. Before addressing that, let's look at what the Quran actually says. The Quran states that the claim, "We killed the Messiah, Jesus, son of Mary," is false. It says they did not kill him, nor did they crucify him, but that it was made to appear so to them, and that those who differ about it have no certain knowledge and only follow assumptions. The most common traditional Islamic understanding is that someone was made to resemble Jesus, and that person was crucified instead. Here is the key issue for Christians and critics of Islam. No historian can prove who was actually on the cross. Historical sources can only say that someone who looked like Jesus and was believed to be Jesus was crucified. History cannot determine metaphysical identity. In other words, historians cannot prove whether it was Jesus himself or someone who was made to resemble him. And this is crucial. The Quran explicitly says it was made to appear so. So any historical testimony that says someone resembling Jesus was crucified actually fits perfectly with the Quran's claim. There is no historical source that can demonstrate an error in the Quran on this point. Now here's why Islam's position is not just defensible, but actually strong evidence for its truth. Historically, among the Jews, there was no concept of a crucified Messiah. None. The Messiah was expected to be a powerful leader, a ruler, a victorious figure, not someone tortured, publicly humiliated, and executed like a criminal. If Islam had claimed that Jesus was the Messiah and that he was crucified, it would have made a massive historical mistake. But Islam avoids this completely. Bart Ehrman, in his book How Jesus Became God, explains that Jews had zero expectation that the Messiah would die and rise from the dead. A crucified Messiah was the exact opposite of what Jews expected. Even the 3rd century Greek philosopher Porphyry of Tyre pointed this out when he asked, "Who among the Jews has ever spoken of a crucified Messiah?" The answer is simple. No one. Now let's briefly address some common objections. Some Christians say Muslims are hypocritical for rejecting the crucifixion because historians like Bart Ehrman believe it happened. But a scholar's authority only applies within the limits of their field. Historians can report what sources claim, but they cannot determine whether divine intervention occurred or whether someone was made to resemble another person. Others argue that Muslims must prove who replaced Jesus on the cross. This assumption is false. Muslims are not required to historically prove every detail mentioned in the Quran. The goal is to show that Islam is not in error and that its claims are coherent and historically sound. Some also argue that Muslims must accept Jewish beliefs about the Messiah to support this argument. That is unnecessary. The only relevant historical point is this. Jews did not expect a crucified Messiah. Islam avoids this contradiction, and that strengthens its claim. To summarize, the Quran makes no historical error regarding the crucifixion. Historical sources cannot refute Islam's position. Islam avoids a massive messianic blunder. And this makes Islam's stance on the crucifixion a strong proof for the truth of Islam. Inshallah, I'll be making many more videos on the historical Jesus, biblical scholarship, and further arguments for Islam, while responding to counterclaims. If you found this beneficial, consider supporting the channel, and I'll see you in the next video.